The next question we have is related to the stations at which this data has been compiled. We have air monitoring stations, and the question is, and I'm going to pose this first to Alice, and Nick can kick in as well. How were those sites selected, and are they really representative of the air quality conditions on average in this area?
So if you look at the chart, you'll see that the longest running monitor that we have has been at the state office building in Fairbanks. So that was the monitor that has historically been in place. So as the borough and DEC have collectively been monitoring in the community for decades. So that was the long-term monitoring site at the time. It was meant there were carbon monoxide monitors in that area as well as particulate. It's in the downtown area, and it was meant to approximate and represent sort of a neighborhood scale site in the Fairbanks area. And that was the original monitor that we had, and it was the original monitor that violated. Over time, early on in that 2006 to 2009 timeframe, as we saw the standard change, we saw the concentrations we were seeing at the Fairbanks site, at the state office building site. There were a number of studies that were done. The borough did a lot of monitoring work, special studies to try and look at the community as a whole and try and identify how well that monitor was doing in representing other parts of the community. So over the years, there have been monitors in a number of different neighborhoods. There have been a number of different types of monitors out there. Ultimately, we needed to identify a maximum impact site, and it was clear that the state office building was representative of that area, but it did not represent a maximum impact for fine particles inside the non-attainment area. And so over time, monitors were put into the North Pole area, which ultimately resulted in a monitor at Hurst Road. I think there was a monitor at the North Pole Elementary for a while, and then ultimately that was moved to Hurst Road. There have been other studies that we've used using other types of sensor technology. These are the regulatory monitors. We've used other sorts of sensor technologies and other types of monitors to try and saturate areas and look at representativeness. So I think it was a couple of years ago, we did a saturation study in the North Pole area to see how well that Hurst Road monitor was representing that area, and found that the data suggests that it is a fairly representative monitor for the North Pole area, at least a mile around that monitor. It's not the highest spot that was found in that saturation study, but it's not the lowest either. So we think it's fairly representative. So, part of it is meeting the federal monitoring requirements for federal reference monitors. The other is trying to understand how monitors can be used in the community to help inform the decisions that are being made day to day in our air quality programs. And I know that the borough still operates a number of other special purpose types of monitors in schools and other places, and I'll let Nick talk a little bit about that.
Oh, thank you, Alice. And just to kind of add on to that a little bit, the borough has operated a lot of different monitoring programs in the past. Some of them were the sniffer program, which went out and got some real-time data so that folks could see what neighborhoods were impacted the most, and it helped delineate where some of the hot spots are within the non-attainment area. That program was discontinued last year, but the borough still does operate a community monitoring program. And the primary purpose of that is to, provide monitors at elementary schools where we know that young children are at, and young children are in particular sensitive to fine particulate pollution. And so it's to give, decision makers in the community the best data so that they can make decisions on a day-to-day basis that are health related. And the borough continues to operate that program.